Well, there's a dark mood emerging among Democrats after their November election losses. One strategist telling the New York Times the party's brand is in the toilet, while Politico reports members of progressive focus group feel that the party is, quote, weak and overly focused on diversity and elites. Let's bring in Caroline Downey, National Review staff writer, and Robert Wolf, former economic advisor to President Obama, 32 Advisors founder and CEO, and a Fox News contributor. Caroline, Robert, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, guys. So building off of Aisha's report, I mean, the government funding debacle was really stunning to me in just noticing sort of the lack of coordination among the Democrats on the messaging. I mean, there were divisions within the Republican ranks exposed, and nobody seized on it like we saw in past times. Robert, what do you think of that?
Well, I probably wouldn't say they're in disarray. I probably see it a little differently. One, the nation spoke. Incoming President Trump won all the swing states. So from a national perspective, there's no question his message on the economy and on immigration resonated. On the flip side, we kept the Senate in Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona, and Michigan, and we picked up seats in Congress. So I think all these strategists and everyone yelling and screaming before even the inauguration begins, I think everyone should, take a chill pill. I think there are things we can work on with President Trump. I mean, immediately immigration comes to mind. Maybe there's a way to keep dreamers and then also do border security, physical and cyber. So I think this idea that woe is me, I don't think it holds fact.
Well, Caroline, I mean, the party really is without an heir apparent after Biden leaves office. I mean, some could argue that Hakeem Jeffries is the most high-profile Democrat, but do you see him sort of shepherding the party writ large before another leader emerges?
Well, if he does, I think that's a bad sign, Jackie. As my colleague Jim Garrity put it, the Democratic leaders like themselves just the way they are. They knew that voters were worried about the economy and illegal immigration headed into this election. They just didn't care. They were guided by a philosophy of no enemies to the left, which meant insane ideas like open borders, bail reform, defund the police, and no one stopped them to say, that's crazy. And in some cases, their policies have been literally lethal. You mentioned the recent subway murder earlier in your show, but it really shouldn't take a case like that or Laken Riley or Daniel Penny to make Democrats stop prioritizing illegal aliens and criminals over the tax-paying public. So the Democratic brand is broken down to its bones, Jackie. It's not a mere messaging problem.
Well, the focus groups seem to agree with you. I mean, wrote in Politico, when asked to compare the Democratic Party to an animal, one participant compared the party to an ostrich because they've got their heads in the sand and are absolutely committed to their own ideas even when they're failing. Democrats, and others said, are not a friend of the working class anymore. And Donnie Deutsch seems to think it's going to take a transformational figure to come out of this hole.
Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, they had and have the ability to turn to voters and say, I feel your pain, I'm going to solve your problem. It's the way a person communicates, how they connect. So we can talk all we want about policy, because I guarantee if you look up on the Democratic platform, it was all there. All the message was there. The Democrats need a transformational figure. They need that figure that can connect.
Robert, do the Democrats have a transformational figure right now?
I would say worrying about 2028 is a bit of premature. It's like with so many of these pundits, President Trump lives in their head rent-free. They wake up to him, they go to sleep to him.
It's not just 2028, though, Robert. I mean, there's a lot that's going to happen between now and then. There's got to be a voice to respond to it, right?
No, well, there's two different things. You have the midterms, and I would disagree with Caroline. I think Hakeem Jeffries is going to be able to lead the party in an incredibly positive way. I mean, if you look at what's happened, we've had Pelosi and Hakeem as the leaders. They've gone from Boehner, Ryan, McCarthy, Speaker Johnson, and now they're talking about getting rid of Speaker Johnson. So if there's a party in disarray over the last decade, we could have that debate. With respect to transformational, those are always the people at the top of the ticket. Like Donnie Deutsch said, it was Reagan and Obama and Clinton and Trump. And that happens at the presidential line. I feel pretty good what's going to happen in 26. As I said before, we picked up seats in Congress. We picked up a few of the swing states in the Senate where Trump won. So I'm not as concerned as everyone's yelling and screaming, you know, like I said, 20 days before the inauguration.
Well, I don't know how, because Democrats typically are much more coordinated, right? Like they have, as a party, more of sort of a top-down message that everyone sort of sticks to and echoes. The Republicans, I mean, yes, to your point, there are many figures and they openly fight with each other a lot, but that's sort of what their brand is. And at the end of the day, I mean, you have Trump leading, you know, that side as a pretty strong force. Caroline, do you think that, you know, anyone comes to mind in terms of who could rise up in the Democratic Party? I mean, Kamala Harris seems to be fading into the sunset, but is there anyone else that comes to mind for you?
Well, Jackie, I think you alluded that winning elections is this magical recipe of effective communication and compelling policies. Gavin Newsom, I think, is formidable in his presence, in his communication style. But what's underlying that are deeply problematic policies that are very unpopular with the public. And, you know, Nancy Pelosi was shepherding the old guard, to Robert's point, and that led the Democrats into the mess they're in right now. And everyone in the senior level of the party was complicit in the cover-up of Biden's age, which allowed a very incompetent speaker, Kamala Harris, who's this you know, kind of faulty substitute, to come in. And so, you know, clearly there is a vacuum for a new person. But the problem is that if it's a young person, a lot of them on the Democrat are extremely progressive. And this election was a rejection of the far left. So if there is a young, aspiring leader out there that's going to emerge through the ranks, they can't be as progressive as AOC.
Well, to Robert's earlier point, there's a lot of opportunity to work on those issues, including immigration, including the border. So we'll see how it all plays out. Caroline Downey, Robert Wolf, appreciate your time. Thanks for being here.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.